most women I'm coaching, it's 9 to 12 months they've had out of business. It's a long
Yep.
time. And so when we kind of delve into what's really causing the confidence gap, as I call it,
Yep.
the thing that often comes up is knowledge. But what I would say is the thing that more gets in the way is their high expectations of themselves. I think it's very hard to focus on your career growth when you're not feeling confident. And in fact, there was a coachee I had who actually wrote herself what she called a love letter before she went on maternity leave, so that when she came back, she could remember all that great stuff. I think that was really lovely.
Today's guest knows exactly what it takes to thrive as a working parent. With over 17 years' experience as a parental transition and leadership coach and 15 years as a former HR leader at Microsoft, Vicky Millar has helped hundreds of professionals redefine success, rebuild their confidence, and step back into work on their own terms. She's all about balance, self-belief, and practical, bold career moves. Vicky, thank you so much for joining the Strategic Salary Series. I appreciate you joining, specifically because you were my return from maternity coach.
Yeah, and I'm so pleased. I've watched your journey over the last kind of few years since that, and I'm really excited that you're doing this. So I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you. Now, a lot of people won't know this, and I hadn't shared this, but when I returned so I went on maternity leave for 13 months. I returned from my mat leave, and part of my package, or part of I believe it's most women at Microsoft are entitled to this. You're given 3 maternity coaching sessions. Now, when I was first told this, I was like, I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure if I really need them. And not because I feel like I'm the finished article, I just didn't really buy into the whole coaching model. So I joined the first session with Vicky and I was completely transparent. I just said, I don't really know if this is for me. I've got 3. I don't think I'll need the 3. I don't want to waste anyone's time. And 3 sessions on, I was completely bought in. I was asking Microsoft, how do I access more sessions? Can I pay? And I just felt it's humbling to know from session 1, I was so confident in thinking I didn't need this service to asking for more at the end of the 3 sessions. So it's an honor to have you and for me to share you with our listeners.
Lovely. And what changed for you in those, like what changed in the first session for you, Lucy?
Oh, what changed? I would say I didn't realize how vulnerable I was after coming back from maternity leave. I
Mm.
felt like I knew I wasn't the same person, and I didn't realize how much had changed. I would say you helped me find the answers to the questions that I was asking myself, and you just got me there a lot quicker. I feel
Mm.
like the answers were looming somewhere, but you helped me laser focus, find those answers, and then I was able to act on them. And that for me, I think if I didn't have those sessions, it probably would have taken me a lot longer to even work out, are these the questions I should be asking myself and where are the answers?
And am I the only person asking these questions as well? I think that's another thing. Can feel quite
Yeah,
lonely.
you're right. It can. And it just felt like, and I don't often like to use the word safe space, but it
Mm.
really did feel like a space for me to just be vulnerable. So yeah, thank you for that. I know I've told you in the past, but I don't think you understand how valuable. And bearing in mind, we had 3 1-hour sessions
Mm.
and they were transformative.
Mm.
So yeah, thank you. Just thank you again. And I can't wait to share some of your insights and some of your methods with our listeners. And I loved that about you. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's jump into questions. The first question I have for you is I want you to take us back to the beginning.
Ah, long time ago.
Yeah.
Am I your old stress?
No, don't say that.
No.
So you spent 15 years working in HR.
Mhm.
When did you decide to make the shift to coaching? Did you
Mm.
always want to be a coach, and what influenced that shift?
Okay. So the second half of those 15 years were at Microsoft. And before that, no, never thought about coaching. And it was, to be fair, it was also in the really early days of coaching, kind of back then as well. But I think I was really lucky. Microsoft at that era, so this is like the early 2000s, was a real time of growth. It was So there were so many positive opportunities. So I got to coach on talent programs. We rolled out a tool called Strength Finder to every single employee. And the HR team were all trained up and we got to coach people around it. And then as part of being an HR business partner, I was coaching the kind of senior leaders. And it just opened my eyes to kind of what was possible. And I think I just realized it played to my strengths. And that was the part of the role that I enjoyed. And then also, whilst I was at Microsoft, I had my 2 children. Um, and so I went through that transition, like you've just talked about, and that whole piece around, okay, we've been supporting women with policy. But I just felt, that whole, how do you juggle it all? How does your identity change? How do you get your career back on track? I saw peers kind of move slightly ahead when I was off, things like that. Yeah, I just felt I wanted to kind of support that more as well. So those kind of 2 things came together. And I thought at the time, asked Microsoft to pay for my coach training. And they said, okay, we're happy to pay, but what are you going to give us in return? So I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
uh, and then there is a note there, isn't there, about it doesn't always have to be a pay increase or a promotion. You can ask for other things. So I said, in return, I'll pilot what we then called maternity coaching. And what you found at that time, it was like there weren't many organizations doing it. There tend to be really big like law firms or financial institutions, but they really wasn't known. So I started doing that alongside my day job, which was tricky juggling with 2 kids as well. And
Yeah.
then 6 months later, I thought, this is what I want to be doing. And so I resigned. And I was very lucky. We had a really progressive HR director. He was fabulous. And when I told him I was resigning and why, and he said, well, carry on doing it for us. 17 years later, I am still running the Return to Work coaching program. So it's perfect.
That's fantastic. Look at the return on investment of that course that Microsoft paid for.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess it gives you this unique perspective because you're
Mm,
coaching women at Microsoft, but you've worked at Microsoft. You have the inside knowledge
mm.
as well as also being a working parent. I just think it's such a unique setup and it makes your perspective so valuable.
And it's interesting. I have had odd people, and probably more in the early days, who said, I wouldn't have taken up the coaching apart from the fact that you'd worked there. And I know I haven't worked there for 17 years, but I think because I'm constantly coaching people there, you kind of keep up with where things are at, what the business priorities are, what the culture's like. So I think, yeah, it's you sort of relevant. Mm,
I find that really interesting.
mm,
So my view on that's slightly different. I was kind of put off because you'd worked at Microsoft. I felt like maybe I couldn't be as transparent. And I thought there has to be a catch. One, you've worked at Microsoft. 2, I'm not paying for this.
yeah.
Are you going to report back? So I
Mm.
think you alleviated all of those concerns within the first 5 minutes. And after that, the rest was history. That didn't cross my mind after our first chat.
That's good. But it's interesting because in true coaching, I don't need to know anything about the organization, the roles, the content. So actually, you don't need to know it. But it's just interesting for some people that was important. And for you, it had the opposite effect. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm.
Thank you, Vicky. So I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. And my thing with LinkedIn is that you can't really gather, well, depending on whose profile it is,
Mm.
you can't really gather who the person is behind the title. So I would love for you to tell us what's one thing that we can't gather from your LinkedIn profile or your CV?
Oh, I find this such an interesting question. I think, oh my God, you could go off in so many different directions, couldn't you? And I'll be honest, because I've heard you ask previous guests this. I actually asked a couple of friends for that. Like, what would you say? But anyway,
Yeah.
I think where I kind of came out, because my obvious one would be family comes first. But I think because of my, like, I choose to coach in this area, that's pretty obvious. So I think is that I actually really practice what I preach. So I have a very clear boundaries and I'm very clear on what's important to me. So for example, like one of the things that's really important to me is health and kind of well-being. And for me, it's a bit more about energy. So I think, I don't know, in your 20s more might be more about how you look and things like that. But for me, it's now my health and well-being is about energy to be a good mum, be a good partner, be a good coach, all that stuff. So I make time every week to lift heavy weights, do boxing and Pilates classes. I'll walk with a friend. I cook, kind of enjoy cooking and stuff. So I think that's the thing that you wouldn't know about me from kind of LinkedIn, that side of it. But that sounds virtuous. I do like a glass or two of red wine, so I'm
Okay,
not.
fair. Okay. So, do you have, is it a very strict schedule? Do you have set days for
Yeah,
Pilates, set days for boxing?
only because to me, like I'm not a very routine person. I like kind of lots of variety, but for me, that's the only way that I make it work. Kind of, fitting it in, and I'm sure that's true for a lot of working parents.
I love that. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing.
yeah,
So, my next question is
mhm,
around when people return from parental leave.
yeah.
So, you've coached hundreds of
Mhm,
professionals, specifically women.
mhm.
And I'd like to ask you, when people return from parental leave, what knocks their confidence the most and how can they rebuild it?
Okay. I feel like we could talk for a long time about this, but I think so. I think it's a lot of it is just the time out you've had. So most women I'm coaching, it's 9 to 12 months they've had out of the business. It's a long
Yeah.
time. In that time, their identities changed, their priorities have changed. The organizations, especially now with AI, wow, the rate of change is so fast. I feel like what then happens is they come back and they feel really out of touch in that they've lost their like credibility that they kind of had beforehand, and they
Hmm.
could have had to change of manager, stakeholders, all that stuff. But and so when we kind of delve into what's really causing the confidence gap, as I call it,
Yeah.
the thing that often comes up is knowledge, that they've lost that knowledge over that time, and if only they had the knowledge, they'd feel more confident. But what I would say is the thing that more gets in the way is their high expectations of themselves. So it's actually that they think that they should be coming back in and hitting the ground running and be creating impact and providing value and being like straight back in. I think that particularly in the organizations like Microsoft that I coach at, I think that really gets in their way. Um, so almost getting them to slow down and really think about, like, if I was a new hire, how would I be landing if I was a new hire? Even talking to their manager a bit like a kind of reinduction plan, so that their expectations are in line with their managers. Because so
Mm.
often, even when you ask them, they realise, oh yeah, that's not what my manager's expecting of me. They do realise it's all kind of them driving it. So I think that would be kind of the core thing that I would say, but it's the inner talk that comes with it, obviously. And so reconnecting them with their strengths, where they add value, all that kind of stuff to really help them sort of remember what was their value beforehand. They're still the same person. And in fact, they might have learned stuff on maternity leave. So, you learn, I think, to prioritize better. Something you've got like little child that you're trying to kind of keep alive and everything. I think
Yeah.
your resilience can improve. And a lot of women also say when they come back, one of the things that really helps them, it's like they can cut through the noise. Don't know if you experience that, but it's almost like some of the noise isn't as important anymore because you've got this little child at home and that's more important to you.
I would absolutely agree. I think one of the biggest takeaways from our session was that I gained this ability to be laser focused.
Mm, mm,
And before having my daughter, so she's 3.5 now, but before having her, I had this tendency to just pick up projects or dabble in things that really had no impact, but why not? Because I've got the
mm,
time. And I've never felt more focused in my career,
yeah.
where I want to be in the next 2 to 3 years, because I've got a bigger purpose. And also, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to
No.
mess about with projects and just dabble in things because, yeah, a child is a huge responsibility.
Mm, mm. And your time, a lot of people would say before having a baby, like, I worked really long hours to be successful and I can't do that anymore. You've got to find a
Mm,
different way. And I think the sad thing for women in a way is it takes having a child for us to learn some of those lessons that
yeah.
actually we should really have been abiding by beforehand. And I remember as an insurance company, I coach on a talent program there, and there's a woman in her 30s, doesn't have children. And she
Hmm.
said after her coaching, she was like, oh my God, like I now get it. I get how to play the game. Why did no one tell me this? All the things about, focus on what's important, understand what's important to your stakeholders, be visible. So I just think we should be better at kind of helping people understand that.
Agreed. Thank you, Vicky. So, my next question is around asking for promotions. So, when it comes to asking for promotions or salary
Mm,
increases, or
yeah.
even just advocating for yourself at work, why do you think so many parents hesitate to negotiate their worth after parental leave?
So I'm actually going to flip this a little bit because my
Okay.
experience has actually been that there are some parents who come back who, by having some space from work, actually have time to reflect. And also that I think being away from their child, it's got to be worth it for them. They come back and they're like, I deserve a promotion. I deserve a pay increase. I'm not staying in this job. I need to move to a job that aligns with my strengths and my values. So on one hand, I see that. But
Wow.
again, so that does happen. Um,
Yep.
but on the other side, obviously, like we've already talked about confidence, they're coming back, their confidence is low, and they're thinking, how do I create impact? And I can't ask for a promotion or pay increase if I'm not creating impact. And if key stakeholders are left, you've got to re-establish all those relationships. And so, yeah, it is a bit two-sided, I think. But I think the other thing I would say gets in the way, I think you've touched on it already, is the perfectionist kind of piece. I think, and it's a huge generalization, but with
Mm,
women, it's like I'll ask for the promotion when I tick all the boxes,
right.
rather than, um, I'll create a kind of portfolio of the impact I'm creating. It doesn't matter if I haven't ticked anything, but have I got the importance of some of the really important stuff there? Yeah.
I you made me think about one of our first sessions when I
Mhm.
came back, and you're right. I think I was one of the people that actually felt like I was more focused and wanted to achieve more and wanted to do more when I came back from maternity leave. And I remember being in my first year and just thinking I had these huge master plans of how I was going to conquer X and do Project Y. And I just think, if anything, I had way more confidence to ask for what I wanted after maternity
Uh-huh.
leave versus before. And I guess it goes back to having a bigger purpose than yourself, being more focused, having less time. So, and you're right, making sure the role you're in is doing what it says in the tin and advancing wherever you need to be. So, thank you for flipping that question on
Mhm.
its head. That's an interesting take. So, my next question is around ambition. Can ambition and parenthood truly coexist, or does something always give?
So I think this is the can we have it all kind of
Yeah.
question to some extent. And I think they can coexist, because I've got plenty of evidence of women out there, you're probably one of them, that it can
Thank you.
coexist. But I don't think you can have it all. I think there's a distinction. I think it's about
Okay.
what's your definition of success. So what is your ambition? What are you actually trying to achieve, and what's important to you? And that's what you focus on. So you have to let go of stuff. Do you feel like that you've had to do that along the way? I think that links a little bit into what you just said, actually.
I would say massively.
Mm.
And I spoke to a few of my friends about this, some that are currently on maternity leave and some that have
Mm.
had children. And I tend to align myself with ambitious women who we all had the same idea. We felt, and we had our first child, and we felt that on maternity leave, we were going to create these multi-million-pound businesses that were going to blow up on our maternity leave, and we were going to take over the world, all while raising a child with no previous experience, preparing to go back to work.
Mm.
And there were so many sleepless nights brainstorming about, well, what's my business idea, or what should I do, or when should I launch? And what I realized is that the maternity leave isn't a break. It's extremely difficult. It's this period of readjustment.
Mhm,
You're
mhm.
kind of learning a whole new human. You're learning yourself. You're a new person. And I just remember how up and down it was.
The other things I'd say are, I think it's about also, we've mentioned this already, about being in a role that aligns to your strengths and values, because then life
Mm,
feels easier. So sometimes people don't want to go for a promotion, for example, because they're worried if I take a promotion, then more's going to be expected of me. But sometimes by taking that promotion, it's going to align better with your strengths, and you actually might be better at that role, or you do it in your way. You don't have to do it how the person before did it. So I
hmm
think that, and then the other thing I'd probably say about the kind of managing the ambition and not being a parent is, I think, intentionally focusing on how you manage your own energy. So, like, I think you've got to look after yourself in order to deliver at a high level. And it actually makes me think about when I worked at PepsiCo in my early career, and I was told when I was there that everyone who was successful in a PepsiCo had a sport. And I thought at the
Oh,
time, like, I don't think I had a sport, by the way. And I remember thinking, like, why? But I think what that was really about was they had something outside of work. So I think that's really important, to have something that gives you energy and kind of helps you from that point of view. Um, can you have it kind of both? Is maybe not all the time. But like, you might have a week where, your child's sick, they're home from nursery, you've got an important work presentation and it feels hellish. And I think we have to be honest
mm.
about that as well. But I think it's just getting crystal clear on what is important. What does ambition look like? And yeah, the laser kind of focus.
That actually, personally, I would say the biggest shift for me, I guess it's my social life. I would say that my social life has taken the biggest impact initially. And I felt very sorry for myself, very hard done by. But I would say in the last year, what that's shown me is when I am socializing and meeting up with friends, it's way more impactful, way more intentional. The people I choose to spend my time with, no, I don't have the same amount of time as before having a child. And it means way more. The conversations are stronger. The locations that we meet, I guess they're more luxury, they're more quality because I'm not out every day or
Yeah.
even during the week. Like, I just feel like those connections are way more meaningful now that I don't see these people as much.
Richer is the word that came to my mind. Kind of,
That's
it's
it.
interesting. Yeah.
Richer.
Richer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? So, yeah, I think so. A word that I use loads is just being intentional, just really, really intentional about what's important to you, and then where you spend your
Hmm.
time and energy. Sounds really calculated, doesn't it? But actually, I think is uh,
Well,
but what a choice
yes
to make
and no.
now.
Exactly right.
Mm,
It's born out of necessity. I
mm,
have to be intentional with my time. I have to be intentional with my career.
mm.
I can't wing bringing up a child. So I think you're right. I think I'm intentional with as much as I can be
Yeah.
without being boring.
Exactly. And like, all work and no play doesn't, isn't a great kind
Yeah.
of idea. But I do think as well, your kind of question about ambition, in the early days when I was
Mm.
starting to do this type of coaching, I'd often ask people about, well, who are your role models? Like, what can we learn from them? And people would say there aren't any. And I think that's one of the things that shifted. I think there are more women at senior leaders doing, you know, living, like, being ambitious, living life their kind of way. And I think that helps as well when we kind of can look around and go, oh, okay. And I can go and talk to them and figure out how do you do it? What decisions do you make? I don't have to make the same decisions, but it can help me think it through.
Yeah, you're right. I think that was also one of the main
Right.
reasons why I joined Microsoft. The VP of sales is a
Mhm.
female.
Mhm.
She has two children and she's killing it in her role. And when I saw that, I thought, well, this seems like a place where I can
Yeah.
really thrive. So I think you're right. Seeing people that can do it and that are doing it
Mhm.
really does encourage you to be like, well, why not me? I can do that too. If they can do it, why not me? And yeah, I think you're right. Having role models, or even
Mm.
they might not, you might not even think they're a role model in the moment. I remember looking at my VP and not being like fangirl moment, but just being in awe. Like, you're really doing something that I one day would like to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they just have to be a step
Yeah,
ahead of you, I think.
exactly. And that's
Mm.
the important thing, making sure that you surround yourself with people that
Mm.
are steps ahead of you. So thank you.
Mhm.
So my next question is around confidence.
Mhm.
Confidence and career growth go hand in hand. So first of all, do you agree? And how can parents stop undervaluing themselves after a career break?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I do agree. I think it's very hard to focus on your career growth when you're not feeling confident. I think
Okay.
it I think it's very hard. I think you to be authentic as well in how
Hmm.
you go about doing it. So what are some of the things that I might have seen, like people grow how they grow their confidence? Really, I'm a very positive in my coaching, and strengths would be kind of a tool that I would use. I'll give you a couple of examples, real sort of life examples, actually. So I think about a really senior female salesperson I coached at Microsoft many years ago. It's really stuck in my head because she came back saying, I don't feel confident in front of customer meetings. So it was very much specific about in front of customers.
Okay.
And she was somebody I really respect, like I looked up to, and I was like, wow, you're so impressive. So I asked her, I said, talk to me about a time before you went on maternity leave. Think about a time you were in a successful customer meeting. What were you doing? What were you
Mm.
thinking? What was happening? And she was like, oh, yeah. It was like, and she really got her in touch with like her strengths, her skills. And it just brought of all of it to life. And she was like, yeah, what am I worrying about? So I think just thinking about where you were beforehand. And in fact, there was a coachee I had who actually wrote herself what she called a love letter before she went on maternity leave, so that when she came back, she could remember all that great stuff. I think that was really lovely. And then actually just this week, I was coaching someone and they were feeling very rocky about their return because of some role changes. And they went and talked to an old colleague and said, you almost remind me of what my value is. So I think there are different ways you can just kind of link into that and really help you. And I think I don't think I said this beforehand, but I think as well, when we focus on, we come back and we go, oh, I'm not confident. I'm not
Yeah.
confident. And we build this belief around it, which isn't really healthy. And then becomes very unconscious. So we're in a meeting and we can't think of the words to say, because people say that they come back from maternity leave and they're like, I know what I
Hmm.
want to say, but how do I put it in my company speak? Because like my
Yeah.
brain's not working quite at that pace. Then you can think about. So if somebody like you can't think of the words, you go, oh, see, I'm not confident, or you say something, someone rolls their eyes, see, I'm not confident. It gets bigger and bigger. Whereas actually, what I get some people to do when it's relevant is just think about what's one thing at the end of the day where I was confident today. So start focusing on where you are confident rather than when you're not,
Hmm.
because I think that's a big thing. And it's like I haven't mentioned imposter syndrome. Like, I think we bandy around the word imposter syndrome nowadays. And I think whilst there's some element of that some people do have it, I think it's too easy to talk about. And it focuses, as I said, on the negative rather than the kind of the positive.
So a question for you in relation to confidence. If you can take yourself back to the first session that we had, what in terms of confidence, if we're looking at a confidence scale, would you say that I was quite a confident person on the first session compared to our third session?
I think there are different elements to confidence. I think were fundamentally a confident person.
Okay.
I do remember, and I don't know if this was the first or second session. I remember you talking about, and I hope it's okay to share, like just a one
Sure.
page you had to present about yourself, and you were
Mm.
second guessing yourself. I remember your funky trainers, like I do remember that one. But you were second guessing what you should put on that, and was it okay? How vulnerable did you want to be? My guess is if
Yeah.
you were doing that today, you wouldn't have that same thought process to that extent. So so fundamentally confident, but yeah, so by the third session, I mean, not even just personal to you, but I generally see by the third session, most people are feeling so much more confident and in control as well. Because I think this is what I think the coaching also does. It puts you back in control. I think you can feel like
Yeah.
things are happening to you.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that thinking about what can you control, what can you influence, and if you can't control it, you've got to let go of it.
You're
Did you think you were
I you
confident? Sorry.
do I think I was
You think you
confident?
look confident, yeah.
Well, looking back now, no, because like I actually remember that. So the slide that you were referring to, it was a company presentation
Mm,
about me. I had, I think, 5 or 10 minutes to give everyone an introduction at my background, my work experience, who I was, and it was. I don't know why I found it so daunting. I'm an expert on me.
mm,
I'm best placed to speak about me. But you're right. I was second guessing. Should I give this amount of information? Should I
mm,
give my personal hobbies? And you're right about the questions. I'm a sneakerhead. I love trainers. Should I say that in work? Will that land right? And it's that second guessing everything. And it's so funny you said that because I'm doing a presentation on Wednesday
mhm,
to a group of school children. And for me, it doesn't matter the audience. The process is still the same. I'm going to reveal information about me. And I didn't even give it thought. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to tell them about myself because it's me. And it was that I've definitely shifted from second guessing to I know this is just normal.
mm.
This is what I do. It's me. So looking back, if you had asked me that question at the time, I would have probably have said yes. I'm a confident person, but revisiting the fact that I second guessed a one pager
Wow.
document about myself, no, there was
And
definitely cracks in
you
my
used part of
confidence.
your coaching session to talk about it.
Yeah, a whole presentation about me. So yeah, it was
Mm,
yeah, honestly, I feel like time really helps as well. Like,
mm.
look, I can't believe that was 3.5 years ago.
Yeah,
Well, no,
no.
2.5 years ago. And in terms of the person I was then and now, I truly do feel unrecognizable. I don't
Mm,
feel like the same woman. I feel like those vulnerabilities, they're there, they're hiding somewhere, but they're never revisited. I don't have the time. It's just not important for me to second guess a presentation about myself. It's such a minute part of my day. We've got bigger fish to fry. So it's just, and I
mm.
guess that goes back to laser focus.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I often say to people is like, okay, so brand is important. We need to care what people think about us and what the perception is. But we
Mm,
don't need to care what everyone thinks of us. So actually, let's get laser focused on who you need to, so going back to kind of asking for a salary increase, promotion, wwho's going to be involved in
mhm.
those decisions? They're the people you might want to think about. What do they think about me and what would I want them to be thinking about me? But it isn't everybody.
So, two more questions before we move on to the random round. So, Vicky, you coach senior leaders who are also parents. What separate those who thrive from those who are just trying to survive?
I think this will bring together some of the things we've probably already talked about. But I think that word intentional, I think the laser focus, that is, I think, they don't try and do everything. I think they generally are much better at saying no in delegation. Probably have good support systems in place, whether that's in work or outside work. In fact, makes me think about many years ago, I did a group kind of session at a large telecoms company. And at the end, it's when we were still face to face days, a woman came up to me and went, "That was really good, but," I was like, okay. She was like, "It was really good, but I realized I am by far the most senior woman in this room and I pay for all those problems to go away." So I thought that was quite interesting. So I outsource it. I outsource and that kind of takes my pain away. But that again allows me to kind of be laser focused on what's important to me. Um, I think I said already, I think they align their time and energy. I think one thing maybe we haven't really touched on, I think it's really important, is they really understand what's important to their stakeholders and they make their work very like visible. So they're very clear on what impact they create that
Hmm.
aligns with what's important to their stakeholders, and then they kind of raise the visibility of it. I think with women, that visibility piece can often be something that's, well, missed, and the stakeholder piece as well, actually. So I can do a great piece of work. If my stakeholder doesn't care, I'm not going to get it's not going to really work. Somebody recently said to me, "Oh, before I went on maternity leave, I was involved in this
Hmm.
project. Now I've
Yeah.
come back. I'm not going to do that anymore because I know our director doesn't care about that. So what is the
Yeah.
point of me spending my time and energy, even though it was something she was passionate about? So I think it's kind of balancing things like that. And then I think with the visibility, I think a lot of women can shy away from it. They kind of feel uncomfortable. But all you're
Yeah.
doing is making it really easy for your stakeholders to understand what you're about, how it adds value to them, and how it links to what's important to them. They're really busy people. I think I was
Hmm.
like that. I think I was like, if I put my head down, I do a good job, I'll be recognised. But work life is manic, and we just need to make it simple.
Do you have any tips on overcoming that barrier? So when the
Yeah.
visibility piece, I have
Mhm.
probably worked all of my career to make
Mm.
myself comfortable
Yeah.
with being visible,
Wow.
making sure when I am visible, it's highly intentional and targeted.
Yeah.
And there are still a lot of men and women who just don't feel comfortable speaking
Yeah.
up. And mine was born out of a necessity. I didn't have many people championing the work that I was doing. So I had to overcome that cringe mountain and be my own cheerleader. And that's not at home, but in the workplace.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you can give to our listeners if
Mhm.
they're trying to be more visible or trying to overcome that barrier of, oh, it doesn't feel right, it feels a bit cringe? What can they do?
I think there is a bit about it. I think exploring that kind of belief that that's probably a bit too much for this. But I would say I really am a fan of starting small. So one
Okay.
thing that I would sometimes set people, I would just say at the end of every week, I want you to think
Hmm.
about where you could have been visible this week and look forward to
Okay.
next week. Think where I could be visible next week. Don't have to change anything. So just start spotting the patterns of where your opportunities are. And I think as part of that, you start looking at what other people do as well. So
Mm,
often when I kind of get into like, well, why do you have an issue with kind of visibility? It's because I
yeah.
don't like the way some people do it. Look at me, look at me. And yet that's a real minority. So it's
Hmm.
finding, I think, your own voice and finding your way to do it. So I like that kind of like, don't put any pressure on yourself to change something. But actually, once you start, when you're telling your brain it's important, you'll
Yeah.
start spotting opportunities and then hopefully you'll start taking some of them up. So
I love
I
that.
think that's just one small tip.
Thank you.
Mm.
Okay. For anyone feeling underpaid or overlooked after parental leave or a career break, what's the first step to confidently negotiating their worth or pay rise or promotion?
I think this seems really basic and a bit stupid, but bloody, oh no, I can't swear, can I? I'm going to have to cut.
No, no, go for it. Go for it. Say it how it is.
So ask the question. And the reason I say this, I said earlier on that when people come
Hmm.
back, sometimes they say to me, like, I'm underleveled, I should be promoted. And I'm like, well, what's the conversation you've had with your manager? And they're like, well, I haven't had a conversation. I'm waiting for them almost. And then they go and
Right.
have a conversation, and really quickly they get promoted. Often their manager says, yes, you're right. So,
Yeah.
so it sounds so stupid in a way, me saying it, but just yeah, have the conversation. Your manager does not know what's important to you. They're not
Hmm.
psychic. So ask. But of course, alongside that, I think it's been prepared then to have the evidence to be able to kind of say, well, this is, this is the impact I've made. This is kind of like the feedback I've had. That I don't know, something that actually demonstrates your worth. And also have the conversation about if it's not now, it's like, well,
Hmm.
if I'm this level, what's the next level? What's the gap? Where am I? So I really understand what that gap is. Now, some managers are good at this and some maybe not so much, but I think you need to understand that so you know what to focus on. But I would also say keep on asking. So it's like,
Yeah.
don't just have one conversation and leave it. Keep
Okay.
on coming back to it. Keep on going. Like, what evidence have you seen now that supports my promotion? What else do you need to be seeing? Who else needs to know? I think it's just that keeping on it and you taking responsibility for it and not assuming that it's going to be done for you. Whether that's right or wrong, I think that's true.
Is that a common theme? Do you get a lot of people that just don't ask?
Yeah, I think that's much more female trait. And I know that again, generalization, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I had somebody actually mention to me that they'd been a graduate in their organisation, and let's say
Hmm.
they're 10 years in. They were talking about how the male graduates were all further ahead than the female graduates. And I think that's probably common.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
I
So,
mean, there are
yeah.
men. I do coach men as well who where they're not good at raising their visibility. They're not good at asking. So it's not just gender,
Mm,
but I think there is a kind of it is more of a female kind of issue. Yeah, they just so you've got to ask. You have to
mm.
ask the question
And keep asking by the
and
sounds of it.
keep asking. Yeah, and nowadays, on the whole, pots are smaller. You know, at the moment, the economic environment and everything. So you've got to be able to stand out and
Mm,
you think about what's going to make me be at the top of the kind of pile. What is it that they're looking for?
yeah. Vicky, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Pleasure.
Thank you for giving me your tips and your insights. Now, we are going to finish up with the random round. So, these are quick fire questions. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your bedtime routine?
Oh God, I'm a bit of a fall into bed girl. Not much. If I fall asleep easily, fall into bed. If I don't asleep easily, I will put a meditation on.
What is your go to hot drink?
Earl Grey tea.
Earl Grey tea. Very
Earl Grey tea.
sophisticated.
I know it sounds a bit
Love that.
presumptuous.
What's your most used emoji?
God. Probably really boringly the crying face or thumbs up or the heart. That would probably be. I'm pretty limited.
Okay, fair.
You-
I'm pretty much so I don't have a huge repertoire of
Oh, I thought you
emojis
would.
either.
Oh,
No,
see.
I'm lazy, very lazy. It's either a thumbs up or a laughing face. I don't really have much
No.
emoji game, if I'm honest.
That makes me feel better. I thought it was my age. Now I feel
Nope.
better.
So, next question. If you had to host a TED Talk
Mm.
in 1 hour's time,
Yeah.
what would the topic be?
Okay. So I wouldn't necessarily have the content ready to go in an hour, but
Okay.
on my soapbox, I would talk about how we change primary school education so it doesn't reward perfectionism and people pleasing. That
I'm
would be my
taken aback. Can we? I know this is meant to be quick fire, but can you expand as to why you would pick that topic? Because that one's just thrown me. I thought you were going to say parental coaching or like returning from maternity leave.
So when I think a lot of women I'm coaching are in their 30s, say, and a
Hmm.
lot of them, perfectionism or people pleasing or both, are getting
Yep.
in the way of them progressing in their careers. And
Right.
I feel that a lot of that goes back to really early on in life. And if you think about primary school, which is why I say that setting, is we
Hmm.
reward girls who sit down, dot their I's, cross their T's, are very nice and polite to the teacher, keep
Yep.
everybody happy. And I kind of get for a teacher that makes a really easy life. But I think that pattern then carries on. That is holding women back, basically. And it's probably partly because I've got a girl who's not like that, as
Mm.
well, who therefore at school was a little bit harder because you didn't conform to that kind of norm. And I remember a primary school teacher actually saying to me, "Your daughter will go far in life." And I said to her, "Yeah, isn't it a shame you don't have like more girls like that in your class?" And she went, "Oh God, no, I couldn't cope with that." So that's what
Wow.
do you think? What do you think?
I would definitely tune into that TED Talk. You just reminded me of my own childhood. So
Mm,
my mum would get repeat meetings and phone calls from teachers saying, Lucy just asked too many questions. It's disruptive. But I don't know how I need to ask, I need to understand. Right,
mhm.
curious. And in adult life, that's a fantastic skill to have. But in a classroom setting, a teacher doesn't have time to answer questions when there are 30 children. And the education system,
Mm,
it wasn't for me.
mm.
I succeeded, but yeah, it wasn't for me. I found it really difficult to conform to traditional education standards.
And I'm just really pleased that they didn't bash that curiosity out of you because that could have happened.
They tried to. I've just got a very,
What?
very, my mum was like, this girl will not shut up. She just asks questions and my mum and dad, both of them were very patient. They always answered my questions, or they always gave me the tools to go and find the answers.
Mm.
So, even if the education system tried to, my parents still
Mm.
answered them, which was good.
And look at you
Yeah.
now, asking questions on your
Asking,
podcast.
there you go.
Full circle.
Exactly. Okay, next question. What's one thing that instantly makes you feel better?
I would probably say it would be probably something like going out for a walk with a friend or my husband or a glass of red wine.
Nice. Fair, very honest, fair. And my final question for
Mhm.
you. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life and only that meal, what would it be?
Okay. So, Lucy, I've already told you variety is important to me.
Yep.
So, this is a horrible question.
Yep.
Um, do you know? So, I think this is a cheat answer.
Okay.
And and this wouldn't be my favourite meal, but I'd say a stir fry because I could get round it. So I could either have it with rice and noodles, I could change my protein, I could change my vegetables. So I could have
Okay.
a variety within one meal. So that's cheating, really, isn't it?
But I mean, I don't make the rules.
No,
Fair. If that's your one meal, a stir fry. I'm actually having a stir fry for dinner tonight. So yeah,
you could
stir
think.
fry. Yeah. It's a staple meal. And yeah, you're right. It's versatile. So that
Oh.
sounds like such a you meal, such a coach's answer. It has to be versatile. There's balance. It's healthy. It's intentional. A stir fry. Fair enough.
Oh, God. Coach by name, coach by nature. Ah!
Yeah. Vicky, thank you so much for spending time with me. Honestly, thank you for being my coach. I just think if anyone is listening and you're planning on returning to work or you're currently on parental leave and you're going back to work, try and listen a few times. It might not stick first time round, but listen a few times, try and take some key actions just to rebuild your confidence before you go back to work. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to wait until you go back to work. There are things that you could be doing on maternity leave. And I wish, looking back now, that I'd already started. So, Vicky, thank you so much. And you've been great.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I've loved seeing your journey. And I'm so pleased you're doing this and spreading this message.
Thank you. If this podcast made you think differently or question the way you navigate your strategy or the way you approach a conversation, please do me a favour. Hit like, subscribe, and share. Your support will help others discover this podcast and keep the conversation going.